Amazon killed Toys R Us after they fell out.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's kill every child-friendly thing in town.
Everybody used to come in and say, you know that the R in your sign is backwards.
Sad news from one of the happiest places on earth.
Kids play with the same toys everywhere.
Toys R Us shaped how children imagined what was possible and trained parents to believe that if something existed, it could be found inside those walls. And for a long time, that belief was correct. Let's take a step back. Toys R Us didn't pop up as some magical kid's wonderland from nowhere. Founded in 1940s by Charles Lazarus, who honestly was just trying to solve a business problem. You see, baby furniture was his original hustle, but you don't buy a crib every week, right? Well, toys, on the other hand, were a whole different ball game. They were smaller, cheaper, and constantly moving off shelves. Parents bought toys no matter what the economy was. Lazarus realized toys weren't just cute extras. They were repeat purchases. Consumable joy, if you will.
They want things for their children. And the lower the price, the more they'll buy.
And that insight flipped the whole retail world on its head. Here's the thing. Toys R Us didn't invent toys or even the toy industry, but what it did do was centralize the entire toy market, essentially becoming Walmart before Walmart. As a matter of fact, they were known as the category killers. Before Toys R Us showed up, toys were more of a side hustle in retail, seasonal and secondary. The selection was limited, shelf space was a constant battle, and pricing mostly controlled by department stores, not toy makers. Toys R Us, on the other hand, didn't treat toys like a department. It made them the business. It created the first real toy superstore. Huge spaces, warehouse-style layouts, and an inventory so deep you could spend hours exploring. But beyond just the size, Toys R Us did something even bigger. It centralized buying power. Manufacturers didn't have to deal with dozens of buyers from all over the country anymore. They had one buyer, one relationship that could make or break a toy nationwide. Get your toy on Toys R Us shelves and you were golden. Miss out and you were often invisible. This shift moved power from the manufacturer straight into the hands of Toys R Us in a way the toy business had never seen. And all of that was based on a physical in-store world. For decades, that world worked. As the company grew through the 60s and 70s, Toys R Us became a national powerhouse. By the 80s, Toys R Us wasn't just a retailer, it was an infrastructure. It dictated how toys were made, how many units were produced, when new products launched, and how holiday sales cycles were structured. But with all that power comes confidence. Confidence bred comfort, and comfort bred rigidity. By the 1990s, Toys R Us was at the top of its game. Then the internet showed up. In the late 90s, e-commerce was still new and experimental. I mean, this was pre-MySpace days. Most traditional retailers figured it would stay supplemental. Besides, toys are tactile, emotional, experiential, right? Parents will always want their kids to see, touch, and fall in love with toys in person, right? Turns out that assumption was dead wrong. Now, Toys R Us did dip its toes online, but barely. The website was underfunded, outsourced, and poorly linked to inventory and fulfillment. It existed more as a check-the-box exercise than a real strategy. Fast forward to the 1999 holiday season, Toys R Us had accepted far more online orders than it could process. As Christmas approached, the company realized it could not meet its promised delivery dates. Instead of notifying customers promptly as required by federal law, many shoppers were informed too late or not at all, leaving families without gifts they paid for. This triggered an FTC investigation and ultimately the civil penalty. They were fined $350,000 for failing to deliver online holiday orders on time, and were now painfully aware that they lacked the infrastructure to compete online. Internally for Toys R Us, the panic was setting in. Instead of seeing this as a wake-up call to build a digital muscle, they saw it as proof that e-commerce was too complex, too risky to handle themselves. So instead of rebuilding, they outsourced. As a result, in 2000, Toys R Us signed a 10-year exclusive deal with Amazon. Amazon would run their online store, handling everything from website to fulfillment, customer service, and transactions. Toys R Us would pay Amazon tens of millions annually, plus a cut of the sales. Now let's get into the drama. At the time, Amazon had mainly been known as an ambitious online bookstore.
Amazon.com is never going to have any of that tactile stuff. We're never going to have any cafes or lattes or anything like that. But we can make Amazon.com every bit as fun and engaging as a a good physical bookstore. It's just it'll be different.
So the deal made sense. Toys R Us had the brand and the supplier clout. Amazon had the tech and infrastructure. Together, they believed they could dominate the online toy game without Toys R Us having to suffer through the digital growing pains. Partnering with the largest toy retailer in the world gave Amazon instant credibility in high volume category and helped attract families. Eventually, they saw Amazon as essential for long-term growth. Under the agreement, Toys R Us would be the exclusive provider of toys and baby products on Amazon, while Amazon would handle website fulfillment and customer service. What Toys R Us didn't realize was e-commerce isn't just a channel to sell through. It's a learning system. Every click, every abandoned cart, every impulse buy teaches you something about customer behavior. By handing over control to Amazon, Toys R Us has surrendered more than sales. It gave access to valuable information, seasonal demand spikes, price sensitivity, trusted brands, impulse triggers, repeat buyers, and age group buying power. Amazon quietly gathered all this intel. The partnership, however, clashed with Amazon's deeper ambitions.
What we're trying to do is very complicated because scale is important in this business, and you need scale also to offer the lowest prices and the best customer service to people. So scale is important to us, and we're going to go after that kind of scale.
Even as the deal was signed, Amazon's internal strategy was shifting towards building a vast third-party marketplace where thousands of sellers could compete on price and selection. Jeff Bezos' vision centered on offering every product in the world, and that required multiple suppliers, not a single exclusive partner. Toys R Us, by contrast, wanted tight control over toy offerings and expected Amazon to honor the exclusivity clause. When Toys R Us struggled to keep items in stock, especially during peak season, Amazon saw this as a threat to customer trust. To fill gaps in availability, Amazon began allowing other toy vendors and third-party sellers onto the platform. Toys R Us viewed this as a breach of contract and sued in 2004. The courts ultimately sided with Toys R Us, allowing the company to exit, but by then, the damage was done. Toys R Us had lost years of digital development, while Amazon had gained invaluable experience in the toy category. For them, the fallout was far more damaging than for Amazon. By outsourcing its e-commerce operations to Amazon, the company forfeited control over customer data, online innovation, and digital brand presence during critical periods when the retail was shifting online. They had stagnated. Its team stopped innovating. Its digital instincts atrophied. For nearly a decade, Toys R Us existed online as a brand slapped onto Amazon's system. No digital culture, no experimentation, no growth. And when the partnership ended, Toys R Us attempted to rebuild its own website, but it was years behind competitors and burdened by heavy debt. On the other hand, once freed from exclusivity, Amazon moved quickly to expand its toy marketplace. It brought in major manufacturers like Mattel, Hasbro, Lego, Fisher-Price, and Playmobil, along with large distributors and thousands of independent third-party sellers. This shift turned Amazon into a dominant online toy retailer almost overnight. 10 years later, they had transformed into a logistics giant, a data machine, and a behavioral engineer. The timing aligned with other major milestones in Amazon's evolution: the launch of Prime in 2005, the rapid build-out of fulfillment centers, and the expansion of marketplace categories across home goods, apparel, and baby products. Toys became one of the earliest examples of Amazon's broader strategy, using category expansion to drive logistics growth, increase order frequency, and reduce dependence on any singular supplier. Meanwhile, Amazon, Walmart, and Target were aggressively expanding their toy selections and offering faster, cheaper shipping. Think about it. Big box retailers, especially Walmart, showed up with a totally different approach. Walmart didn't need toys to turn a profit. Toys were traffic drivers, losses they were willing to take to bring customers in the door. In other words, Walmart could undercut Toys R Us in a way that Toys R Us simply couldn't compete with. So, Toys R Us fought back by squeezing suppliers even harder and demanding lower wholesale prices and better terms. Manufacturers complied, but the stores started to feel different. The magic was fading. The store became more utilitarian, fluorescent lighting, less whimsy. The experience shifted from exploration and wonder to quick transactions. Parents still came through the doors and kids still begged for toys, but that emotional edge had dulled. Toys R Us had gotten its online presence back, but without infrastructure, momentum, or the agility to compete. With time, parents adapted fast. Toys R Us became less about aisle and more about the search bar. In the same year, Toys R Us was taken private in a $6.6 billion leverage buyout by private equity firms KKR, Bain Company, and Vornado Realty Trust. This deal loaded the company with billions in debt, forcing it to funnel hundreds of millions each year into interest payments. By the early 2010s, Toys R Us's underinvestment was glaring. Attempts to modernize were too little, too late, and too cautious. In 2017, Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy.
The largest toy store chain in the U.S., Toys R Us, has filed for bankruptcy protection.
By 2018, it closed all of its U.S. stores, later to show up in Macy's. Toys R Us will always live in our memories, in jingles and holiday photos, and that dizzying feeling of standing at the end of an aisle overwhelmed by endless choices. But its disappearance reminds us of one simple truth. It's better to learn than to outsource, because Amazon killed Toys R Us after they fell out.